Most people are accidentally destroying tomorrow, tonight. Not dramatically, not obviously, just quietly, through a series of small, unconsidered habits that happen between dinner and sleep. The phone in bed, the late night snack, the one more episode, the lying there staring at the ceiling wondering why your brain won't shut off. Here's what's strange about that. Nobody talks about night routines the way they talk about morning routines. There are 10,000 videos about 5 a.m. wake-ups and cold showers. But the night before that 5 a.m., complete silence. And that silence is costing people more than they realize. The sleep researcher Matthew Walker has written that sleep is the single most effective thing we can do to reset our brain and body health each day. Not exercise, not diet, sleep. And sleep doesn't begin when your head hits the pillow. It begins with what you do in the 2 hours before that moment. The night routine is, functionally, the on-ramp to everything your brain and body need to repair, consolidate, and prepare. This video is 6 specific, science-grounded steps that could genuinely transform the quality of your nights, and by extension, the quality of every morning that follows. These aren't soft suggestions. They're practices with actual physiological reasoning behind them. Stay through every point. Point 5 is the one that most high performers swear by privately, but almost nobody talks about publicly. You'll want to hear it. Like this video, drop a comment, share it with someone who can't sleep properly, subscribe to this channel, and don't skip any part, because the steps build on each other in ways that only make sense if you see the full picture. Let's get into it. Number 1. Set a hard stop time, and mean it. This is the step that sounds the most obvious and gets ignored the most consistently. Your body has a biological clock, the circadian rhythm, and it is not metaphorical. It is a real, measurable, hormonal timing system that runs on approximately a 24-hour cycle. Melatonin, the hormone responsible for signaling sleep readiness, begins rising roughly 2 hours before your natural sleep time. But here's the catch. That rise is suppressed by light exposure, particularly blue-spectrum light, and by the kind of cognitive stimulation that comes from screens, stressful conversations, or work that keeps the prefrontal cortex firing at full capacity. Every night you push past your natural sleep window, by an hour, by 90 minutes, you're essentially telling your hormonal system to stay on hold. And the body obliges, for a while. But the debt accumulates. Aristotle wrote about telos, the idea that every living thing has a natural end, a designed purpose it moves toward. Applied loosely here, your body has a designed sleep window, and working against it persistently appears to carry costs that show up in cognition, mood regulation, and even immune function over time. Pick a consistent sleep time, not aspirational, realistic. Then set a hard stop 90 minutes before that time. Whatever you're doing, working, watching, scrolling, it ends. Not because you're rigid, but because you're strategic. Consistency of sleep timing, research suggests, may matter as much as total sleep duration. Your body learns when to expect sleep. Give it something predictable to work with. Number 2. Dim the lights and tell your brain the day is over. Light is information. Your brain reads it constantly, even when you're not aware of it. The photoreceptors in your retina, specifically the intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, are particularly sensitive to short-wavelength blue light, the kind emitted by LED screens, overhead lighting, and most modern bulbs. When these receptors detect that light in the evening, they send a signal to the suprachiasmatic nucleus that essentially reads, "It's still daytime, stay alert." Melatonin stays suppressed. Sleep onset delays. The fix is deliberate dimming. Starting about 90 minutes before bed, reduce the overall light in your environment. Switch off overhead lights. Use lamps with warm-tone bulbs. If you're using a phone or computer, and most people are, enable the night mode or warm-tone filter. These aren't perfect solutions, but they appear to reduce the melatonin-suppressing effect meaningfully compared to unfiltered bright screens. There's something almost ancient about this practice. Before electricity, humans experienced a natural gradient from daylight to firelight to darkness over the course of each evening. That gradient was the signal. We removed it with the invention of the light bulb, and then made it dramatically worse with smartphones. Dimming your environment at night is, in a sense, restoring a biological cue your nervous system was designed to receive. It feels small, The neurological effect appears to be anything but. Number 3. Do a brain dump before you try to sleep. If you've ever lain awake mentally rehearsing tomorrow's to-do list at midnight, this step is specifically for you. The brain doesn't stop processing just because you've decided to sleep. If there are open loops, unfinished tasks, unresolved decisions, things you're worried you'll forget, the default mode network, the brain's background processing system, keeps running them. It's not anxiety exactly. It's more like a computer that can't shut down because too many programs are still open. Psychologist Bluma Zygarnik identified in the 1920s what became known as the Zygarnik effect, the tendency of the brain to devote ongoing cognitive resources to incomplete tasks more than completed ones. Her research appeared to show that unfinished business creates a kind of mental tension that persists until it's either resolved or externalized. Externalize it. Before bed, not in bed, before bed, spend 5 minutes writing down everything sitting in your mental queue. Tasks for tomorrow, worries, half-formed ideas. That conversation you need to have. Get it out of your head and onto paper, not into a phone app, paper. The act of physically writing appears to signal closure to the brain in a way that typing doesn't fully replicate. This is not journaling in the elaborate, self-reflective sense. It's closer to a mental sweep, a clearing. You're giving your brain permission to stop holding things because they're now held somewhere else. 5 minutes. The difference to sleep quality could be significant. Number 4. Lower your body temperature deliberately. This is the step that catches most people off guard, and it's one of the more physiologically interesting ones. Core body temperature needs to drop by approximately 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit to initiate and maintain sleep. This isn't a side effect of sleep, it's actually a prerequisite for it. The cooling is part of the trigger, which means anything that keeps your core temperature elevated, a hot room, intense exercise too close to bedtime, heavy food that activates digestion, is directly working against your body's ability to transition into sleep. Matthew Walker's research at UC Berkeley has highlighted this mechanism extensively. He's noted that one of the reasons people fall asleep more easily in cooler rooms is precisely because the environment assists the temperature drop the body is trying to achieve. The practical applications here are counterintuitive in one direction. A warm bath or shower taken 60 to 90 minutes before bed actually helps sleep onset, not because of warmth, but because the post-bath cooling effect as your skin radiates heat afterward accelerates the internal temperature drop. This has been studied, and the findings appear consistent enough to be worth trying. Keep your bedroom cool. The commonly cited range is 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, or roughly 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. If that sounds cold, consider that your body generates significant heat under bedding. The room being cool creates the gradient your body needs to work with. Temperature is a sleep lever most people don't know they have. Now you do. Number 5. Review the day with gratitude, but not the way you've heard. This is the one high performers talk about quietly, and it gets misrepresented almost everywhere it appears. Gratitude journaling has been somewhat diluted by overuse. The generic, write 3 things you're grateful for instruction appears on so many apps and self-help lists that it's lost most of its texture. But the underlying science is worth separating from the watered-down practice. Neuroscientist Alex Korb, in The Upward Spiral, describes how the act of searching for and identifying something positive in a given day activates the medial prefrontal cortex and appears to reduce activity in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. The shift is modest, but it's measurable, and done consistently, it may gradually recalibrate the brain's default toward noticing what went right rather than scanning for what went wrong. The key distinction is specificity. I'm grateful for my family does almost nothing neurologically. It's too abstract to land. I'm grateful for the 10-minute conversation with my brother where we laughed about something stupid. That's specific enough to generate genuine positive effect. The brain responds to real, sensory, situational memory. Consider a writer named Anna who had struggled with night anxiety for years. She began spending 4 minutes before bed writing one specific, detailed moment from the day that had some brightness in it. Not gratitude for big things. Small, textured things. Within 3 weeks, she reported falling asleep faster and waking less frequently. Her amygdala had, in a sense, been given a different last word before sleep. Specificity is the ingredient most gratitude practices leave out. Add it back in. Number 6. Make your bedroom a sleep-only space. This last step is structural, and it may be the one that makes everything else sustainable. The brain forms associations between environments and behavioral states. This is called contextual conditioning, a well-established concept in behavioral psychology rooted in the kind of associative learning that Pavlov first mapped over a century ago. If you work in your bed, eat in your bed, watch television in your bed, and argue on the phone in your bed, your brain learns that the bed is a place of stimulation and demand, not rest. Sleep specialists refer to this as sleep hygiene in the environmental sense, the practice of reserving the bedroom, and specifically the bed, for sleep and intimacy only. The research behind this recommendation appears consistent. People who use their beds for multiple activities tend to experience longer sleep onset times and more fragmented sleep than those who maintain a clear environmental boundary. This is harder to implement than it sounds, particularly for people in smaller living spaces or those who work from home. But the principle can scale down. If you can't avoid working near your bed, at minimum, when the night routine begins, close the laptop, put it out of sight, and change something physical about the space. Different lighting, a specific scent from a candle, something that signals, this mode is over, a different one is beginning. The brain responds to environmental cues. Design them with intention, and the behavior tends to follow with less friction than willpower alone could ever manage. 6 steps that, taken together, could completely change the quality of your nights, and therefore your mornings, and therefore the trajectory of your days. A consistent hard stop that respects your biology. Deliberate dimming that signals the end of stimulation. A brain dump that clears the mental cue before sleep asks your mind to quiet. Temperature management that works with your body's sleep mechanism rather than against it. Specific, textured gratitude that gives the brain a different emotional landing point at day's end. And an environment designed to associate rest with where rest happens. None of these are expensive. None require a significant lifestyle overhaul. What they require is the decision, made tonight, not someday, that your sleep is worth the same level of intentionality you'd give to anything else you care about performing well. The philosopher Seneca wrote, Omnia aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est, roughly translated, everything else belongs to others, time alone is ours. The night is the part of time most people give away thoughtlessly. These 6 steps are about taking it back. Your best days start the night before. That's not a motivational slogan, it's basic neuroscience. If this gave you something useful, like this video, it genuinely helps this content reach the people who need it most. Leave a comment telling me which step you're implementing first. I read them. Share this with someone whose sleep is suffering and who'd never think to search for a night routine video. And subscribe to this channel, because this is exactly the kind of work we're committed to here, specific, science-grounded, and built for real people with real lives. Tonight is not just the end of a day, it's the foundation of the next one.